Invite your attention to the book of Mark, chapter 6. Mark, chapter 6, second book in the New Testament. It probably doesn't surprise you if you hear me say something like, God really desires to change some things about us. I don't think that catches us, any of us, off guard. We might quibble with what we're willing to let Him change or what we want to let Him change, but we're probably not caught off guard by realizing there are things about us that He wants to change. I mean, think about it like this. No matter where you're at in life, regardless of who you are, God desires to change where we're going to spend eternity. That's significant to God. He desires to change you, and you understand that we're all leaving one day, and He wants to change where we're going to spend eternity. He wants to make sure that we spend eternity with Him in heaven. He wants to change our standing before God. He wants us. We're all sinners. We've all sinned, come short of the glory of God. That's every one of us. Not a one of us have a high road to say, no, I'm somehow better than somebody else. No. In the eyes of God, we all have sinned, and we all have come somewhere beneath His glory. And He desires to change us all from sinners to forgiven sinners. He wants to bring us into His family, to bring us from outside His family as rebels to inside His family as children of God. He wants to change us. He not only wants to change where we're going to spend eternity and who we belong to, but He also desires to change who we are on the inside, who we are at heart. He wants to change, and beyond that, He wants to change how we look at things in this life, even how we look at people in this life. Jesus had a way of seeing more than was obvious to those that were around Him. He had a way of seeing things differently. His vision was different. On one occasion, Jesus and His disciples encountered a man who was blind, and the question of the disciples exposes what they saw. Their question is, Jesus, who sinned that this man was born blind? That was their idea. This is terrible. Somebody must have done something terrible in order for this to have happened. So they saw sin. They saw flaws. Jesus said, no one has sinned for this man to be born blind. And Jesus shared with them that this man's blindness was not because of anybody's mistake or error or fault, but because God was looking for an opportunity to be glorified. And so they saw sin. Jesus saw an opportunity to heal somebody and bring glory to God, and He does. On another occasion, Jesus is entering into the community or the city of Jericho. As Jesus comes into Jericho, there's a man by the name of Zacchaeus. Anybody remember Zacchaeus? He was a wee little man, you might remember him. And the community of Jericho would not make room for Zacchaeus to come to Jesus. I mean, they looked at Zacchaeus. They didn't see anybody of value. They saw no need for them to stand aside and let the wee little man come up to the front. But Jesus looked at Zacchaeus, and Jesus told him, listen, you need to go back to your house and get ready. I'm coming to your house today. They looked at Zacchaeus, and they didn't see anything worthwhile. Jesus looked at Zacchaeus, and Jesus saw somebody He wanted to spend the day with. Jesus saw things that were not obvious to those that were around Him. On another occasion, Jesus is in the house of a man named Simon. While He's there, there's a woman who comes and she bathes His feet with her tears, and she dries Jesus' feet with her hair. And Simon looks at this woman, and all he can think about is her past. In fact, he says if Jesus knew what kind of woman this was that's touching him, he wouldn't let her touch him. All he could see was her flaws, her faults, her scars, what lived in her past. Jesus looked at her, and instead he saw genuine, authentic worship that would outlive the day, that would be recorded. And then Jesus says what she's done is lasting, what she's done is real, it's valid. And in fact, Simon saw somebody with a lot of faults. Jesus saw somebody that had been forgiven of a lot of sins. I mean, Jesus saw things differently. By the way, Jesus would like to change not just where we're spending eternity, not just what family we belong to, His family, but He also wants to change how we look at things, especially how we look at people. Jesus would like to alter our vision. He would like to change it. And so I've asked you to look with me in Mark chapter 6. And we've been spending these Sunday mornings and working our way through the book of Mark. We've been in chapter 6 for just a little while, but I want you to look with me. Mark chapter 6. Are you there? If you're able to, would you stand for a moment? And look with me in verse 31. And we're going to read a little bit longer text than we normally read, but stay with me. We pick up kind of midstream. It's been real hectic. It's been real busy where Jesus is and where he and his disciples have been. And so Jesus, he said unto them, come ye yourselves apart into a desert place and rest for a while. And then get this. Here's the description. For there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much to eat. I don't know if there's anything about that terminology that gets you, but there's something about that terminology that gets me. I do not look at eating as a leisure. Do you? I mean, I look at it as a necessity. It's something that we're going to do, and it's something I like doing, but it's something I need to do. But they said it's so busy. It was so busy with Jesus and the disciples, with people coming and people going, that eating had become a leisure, a luxury. To give you an idea how busy they were. And so Jesus says, we're going to go. We're going to go somewhere. We're going to wait for the crowds. Verse 32. And they departed into a desert place by ship privately. It's a desert place. There's not a lot of folks who live there. We're going to go by ship. In other words, we're going to go across the water. That'll kind of weed out the followers. And then we're going to go privately. We're going to do this in obscurity. And in spite of all that, the people saw them departing, many knew him, and ran afoot thither out of all the cities, and outwent them, and came together unto him. And Jesus, when he came out, saw much people, and was moved with compassion toward them, because they were as sheep, not having a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And when the day was now far spent, his disciples came unto him and said, this is a desert place, and now the time is far past. Send them away, that they may go into the country round about and into the villages, and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. He answered and said unto them, give ye them to eat. And they say unto him, shall we go and buy 200 penny worth of bread and give them to eat? He saith unto them, how many loaves have ye? Go and see. And when they knew, they say 5 and 2 fishes. And he commanded them to make all sit down by companies upon the green grass. And they sat down in ranks by hundreds and by fifties. And when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, he looked up to heaven and blessed and brake the loaves and gave them to his disciples to set before them. And the 2 fishes divided he among them all. And they did all eat and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of fragments and of the fishes. And they that did eat the loaves were about 5,000 men. And there we see Jesus in a situation that maybe we're familiar with. Maybe we've heard something about the feeding of the multitude. We know something about the loaves and the fishes. But I want you to, for just a moment, kind of set that aspect of it off to the side. And focus in on how Jesus looked at the situation differently than they looked at the situation. Jesus saw things that they didn't see. He asked them, they saw people, Jesus saw individuals. They saw a need, they're hungry, let's send them somewhere. Jesus saw opportunity, they're hungry, let's feed them. I mean, they looked at the fish and the loaves and said, we don't have enough. And Jesus says, give me what you have. Just give me what you have. It'll be that Jesus saw things entirely differently. He wants to change how we see things as well. Very good. Father God, we thank you. We thank you for the opportunity to come and open your word and invite you to speak. But I pray that you would inhabit our words, that you would give direction to our thoughts. Lord, it's not a matter if we have a need. We are needy people. We have hurts, heartbreaks, sin, flaws, not a perfect one amongst us. Lord, we need you. And we invite you, Lord, to answer our prayers, to give us your vision, to let us see people and see things the way you see them. To pray, Lord, that you would change us. You would change us just the way you want to. And we ask these things in Christ's name. Amen. Please be seated. Long text and perhaps a longer introduction than we're accustomed to, but Jesus saw things differently. And with all my heart, in fact, not just with my heart, but on the basis of the Bible, He wants to change us. In fact, I would challenge you that any person in the Bible who spends time with Jesus is challenged to change as a result of the time they're spent with Him. They all won't wait. In fact, after about three and a half years of the disciples following Jesus, whenever they're taken into question on the other side of Jesus' death and resurrection, it is noted by the authorities that these had been with Jesus. How did they recognize they had been with Jesus? Because they saw the difference, the changes that Jesus had made in their life. And that they knew where they came from geographically, but they couldn't account for who they were except for Jesus. Jesus had changed who they were. And by the way, Jesus still wants to change folks. He wants to change us. If we spend time with Jesus, He's going to alter us. It may be slow. It may be painstakingly slow. We may not even be aware if He changes. He in His own way alters us and changes how we think about things and how our philosophies and our views until maybe years go by and suddenly we realize, I'm not anything like the person that I used to be. I've changed. His desire is to change us. And I want to just share with you three ways that Jesus, the way that he viewed things differently, rises to the surface in our text. And perhaps how He would have us change our vision of people and of life. First of all, I want you to notice this. Jesus saw His purpose in people. When He looked at people, he didn't see something to be avoided, but He saw His purpose. And step to the scene. It is busy. A lot of people are coming, a lot of people are going. News is spread where Jesus is at, and they're bringing sick, and they're bringing possessed, and they're bringing blind, and they're bringing children, and they're bringing aged, and sometimes they're even calling Him to come to us to dead. And it's really busy. It is so busy that eating has become a leisure instead of a necessity. And Jesus says to His followers, let's go somewhere where there aren't any people. Let's go to a desert place. Let's for a season kind of step away from the crowd. We'll catch our breath. And so they do. They get on a ship. They go across the sea. They do it privately in obscurity. They go to a desert place where there is not a community in a village. And when they get there, the crowd has outrun them. The crowd has knowing, the suggestion is that they knew Him, they knew where He was going, and they got there first. And so when Jesus comes out of the ship, He sees the crowd. And notice what He does not do. Because He doesn't do what I would have been tempted to do. He doesn't say, now listen, you buzzards. It's been real busy. We're really tired. We'd like a day off. Just a little bit of rest. I mean, He doesn't say, don't you understand? We were trying to get away from you, and you caught up with us. I mean, I don't know how you would be prone to respond, but my knee-jerk response would be to say, we're not even going to land the ship. We're going to turn around and go some other place. I mean, but that's not what Jesus does. It's not that He's not busy. It's not that He's not tired. He's very tired. He knew the weariness of people. But when He looked at them, He saw His purpose. He saw what He was there for. He was there to make a difference in their lives. And listen, Jesus could have said, I left heaven and I came to earth, not for luxury, but to minister unto you. Jesus could have said, I left heaven and became a man on planet earth, so not that folks would do something for me, but that I would give my life a ransom for many. And He could have said, I came to seek and to save that which was lost. By the way, He said all those things because when He looked at people, He saw His purpose in life. He saw what He was there for. I believe in some ways He challenged His followers to look at people and to see people differently. Don't look at them and see sin. Look at them and see folks just like us. They're sinners and they can be forgiven. Look at people and don't be overwhelmed by the scars and the problems that you see. But see the value of somebody that God would leave heaven and come to earth and die on the cross just for this person. When He looked at people, He saw His purpose in life. Listen for a moment. Sometimes I think a monastery sounds like a wonderful place. I mean, just get away from people and just live out my Christianity in some private place.
There's a problem with that. I cannot live out my Christianity in the absence of people. It doesn't work that way. One of the greatest commandments is to love others as I love myself. Try to do that in the absence of people. The Great Commission is to go ye therefore. I mean, listen, you can't do it in the absence of people. People are integral. People are part of the purpose. Jesus came for people, and as Christians, as children of God, people, they're our purpose. They're not the problem. They're not the issue. They are the purpose. I understand that sometimes with people come problems. With me come problems. Jennifer's in back. And Mr. John's here, but he's such a good father-in-law, but I know what I'm saying. I mean, our first full day married, we've left Ocala and we're headed to South Georgia. And it's about 10 o'clock. In my family, where I grew up, if you are within 3 hours of the house at mealtime, you go to the house and you eat when you get there. Jennifer's family looks at things a little bit differently. Evidently, in her family, if you are within 2 hours of a mealtime, you start planning where you're going to eat your meal. I mean, there were problems that came to surface almost immediately, but you get that, don't you? I mean, with people come problems, and that's just part of it. And if you think that you're going to have the perfect relationship with no problems, listen, even if you had no relationship, you would still have problems, because that's just the way it is with people. But Jesus looked at people, and yeah, he's tired. Yeah, he's weird. Yes, they ask a lot. Yes, they're demanding. Yes, they keep bringing problems to him. Yes, they keep bringing their sick. Yes, and they keep bringing their disease. Yes, there's a lot of problems. Nobody looks at them. He doesn't see the problems. He sees people who have a need, and he came to meet their need. I don't know what you think of when you look at people. People that look differently than we look. But I hope when you see them, you see the purpose. We are here as God's children to love people, to reach out to people, to make a difference in the lives of people. You can't live out your Christianity in the absence of people. Not only did he have a different vision of people, but he had a different vision of individuals to expand on it. When he looked at people, he saw his purpose. When he looked at the population, he saw people. He didn't come to deal with statistics. He came for individuals. The world you and I live in has become a very statistically driven world. Politics are driven by statistics, all kinds of surveys. Your phone rings and somebody wants to take a survey. That somebody's trying to figure out the statistics. They want to know, and the politicians want to know, if I stand on this side, will folks vote for me or folks vote against me? Instead of saying it's right or wrong, we just become a statistic-driven organization. And then sometimes you hear statistics, and I want to say, who in the world would share that part of their life so they can even get those statistics? I don't know where they would come from, but that's so if we're not careful, we look at people and we see statistics. Jesus looked at a crowd, and he didn't see the crowd. He saw the individuals in the crowd. He didn't see the mass. He saw the person. He didn't see the people. He saw the ones. He didn't see 10. He saw, you get what I'm saying? When he looked at a crowd, he didn't just see a mass of people. He saw the individuals in that crowd. He knew their needs. He knew their problems. He could have called them by name. He could have told them where they had been. He could have shared everything about their past, not just because he's God, but because people were important to God. People should be important to us. That's why he came, by the way. I think sometimes we forget why we're here. Sometimes we imagine that we're here to get a promotion or a pay raise. Or we're here, ha ha ha. We're here to acquire, accomplish, obtain. As if somehow we're placed on planet, and sometimes we get this notion, I'm here to have a better house. Or I'm here to drive a newer car. Or I'm here to have more money than you. Do understand that if that's why you're here, one day you're leaving all that. And then you have to wonder what did life really matter? If life was just about accomplishing, if it was just about acquiring, if it was only about attaining, if it was just about what I could experience along the way, then what is the value of life when I come to the end of my road? What did it really matter? I mean, I hope you understand that things have little value unless those things are used to bless somebody else along the way. That possessions have little value unless they're used to benefit somebody else. And knowledge is really just knowledge for the sake of knowledge, unless somebody's life is made better because of that knowledge. Is when you look at people, when you look at a crowd, to understand in that crowd, there are people that hurt just like you. There are folks that are suffering just like you. There are people that need somebody to love them just like you. Jesus even saw problems a little bit different. The disciples came to him and they said, listen, a lot of times past Jesus, and they're hungry. And let's send them away so that they can go get some food somewhere. We don't have anything. Let's let them go. Keep in mind, it's a desert place. There wasn't a 7-Eleven or a Dollar General store. Brother Kenneth, there's a Dollar General store in Beta, Georgia. Who saw that coming? Right across the road from where the liquor store used to be, too. I mean, understand something. They were in a desert place. And yet, in that desert, there was not. Where were they going to get bread? There's a huge crowd that has come from a different part of the region. They've displaced themselves. Now they're hungry. And listen, that community could not absorb their need. It couldn't. So the disciples come and they say, there's a problem. The people are hungry. Our answer to the problem is send them away where they can go somewhere and get some food. Jesus says, you're right, there's a problem. They're hungry and they need food, but instead of us sending them away, let's do something about it ourselves. Let's feed them. They saw the problem, Jesus saw the possibilities. They saw the need, Jesus saw the need and the answer. They said, let's send them away. He said, oh, let's don't send them away. Let's set them down. And let's take inventory of what we have, and let's feed them. I mean, listen, it's golly. Sometimes my tongue just will not cooperate with my brain. What I have found is there's no shortage of people who can see the problems. Preacher, there's a problem. Brother Charlie, there's a problem. But there's very few people who are willing to stop and say, let me be part of the answer. They see the problem. The problem's easy to see. The possibilities, that takes vision. Jesus had that vision. He didn't see just the problem, he saw the possibilities. I get consumed with the problem. In 2 days, I'll celebrate 9 years since brain surgery. 9 years ago, if you could have sat down and got me to be honest with you, I'd have said, we got a problem. We got a really big problem. And I don't see a good way out of this problem. And if I were just to be transparent with it, and I don't know if I should or but I will, but if I would just be entirely honest with you, I found the month between diagnosis of brain tumor and surgery to be ironic, to be humorous, to be wasted, and for me to be very demoralizing. I mean, first of all, they wouldn't let me drive, and they wouldn't let me preach. But they let me buy a hunting license in South Georgia and carry a rifle around the woods. You go figure. Didn't make any sense. And in all honesty, when I would drive, I found myself sitting at a railroad track crossing, thinking, if you time this thing just right, you can take your foot off this gas. And you can just end this thing real quick. Because all I saw was problems. I'm thankful I have a God who sees possibilities. Amen. He sees what can be. I see disease. He sees the other side of the disease. I see sickness. He sees beyond sickness. I see hurt, pain, He sees hope and healing. I see an empty heart. He sees a heart he wants to fill. He looks beyond the problem and sees the possibilities. And I know where you're at in life today. But I know this. Our problems are not bigger than his possibilities. He saw things differently. They said, we don't have enough. He said, give me what you have. They said, we've got 5 loaves and 2 fishes. There's 5,000 men here, Jesus. We've got 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Did you get the 5,000 men here, Jesus? Jesus says, have them sit down and organize them if you have them sit down. Have them sit down in ranks of 50 and 100. And they somehow did. And then he blesses the food. And lo and behold, they discovered that when you give Jesus what you have, Jesus is able to do a whole lot more with it than we are. And he does. I mean, what they saw was, we don't have enough. What he saw was, man, you got plenty, just give it to me. He saw the provision. So please understand, Jesus, he is true. He wants to change our standing. He wants us to go from unforgiven to forgiven. He wants us to go from outside the family of God to inside the family of God. He wants to change our eternal destiny. He wants to change us from being held down to having a home in heaven. But he also wants to change who we are and how we see things right here, right now. And so he lives. He lives it out before us. A real problem, a real bad time of life. He lived it. He saw people different. He saw possibilities instead of just problems. He saw that if you just give what you have to Jesus, Jesus has a way of taking care of the rest. So I don't know where you're at. But I know where Jesus is at. He's the same God today as he was back then, somewhere off the shore of Galilee. Just as big, just as powerful, just as caring, just as loving. And when he looks down at this crowd, he sees you. There's not a thing about you he doesn't know. And in spite of that, he still loves us. And perhaps he's tapped on your heart and urged you to take a step closer to him today. I'd invite you to do that. I'm asking you to stand, to ask you to bow your head.